Promoting dialogue. It's May Day in Dakar, 1 p.m. in Abuja. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. The state of Senegal, in a revised media listing, recognizes 200 outfits, representing a drop from the previous list of 600 organizations.
Our goal is to achieve a stable ecosystem with clearly identified actors. We envision professional journalists practicing their craft responsibly and reporters and technicians employed legally, enjoying employment contracts and corresponding social protections.
Civil society organizations in Nigeria react to the expulsion of the International Red Cross by the authorities. Meanwhile, Nigeria is considering increasing the number of states from the current 36 to 67.
The Senate is not making proposition for creation of any state. For creation of state must be supported by 2/3 of elected representatives in the two chambers of the National Assembly.
And Liberia's government pushes for a permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Augustine Coley with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast and welcome to our listeners in the Gambia, Ghana, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. ECOWAS civil servants from AES member countries have been notified of the end of their contracts by the West African Organization. The decision concerns 135 Malians, Nigerians, and Burkinabes. Their contracts are due to expire on September 30. According to the West African Organization, these AES nationals will receive the equivalent of 3 months' salaries, plus 1 month for each year of service, up to a maximum of 12 months. The three AES countries definitely left ECOWAS on January 29. The West African Organization has set up a committee to negotiate with the three Central Saharan countries on the terms and conditions of their departure, notably concerning the free movement of people and goods, the conditions for settling and setting up businesses, and the economic infrastructure and development programs carried out or financed by ECOWAS in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. The three countries also say they are ready to negotiate, favoring a global approach. Here in Senegal, the Ministry of Communication has published an official revised list of recognized media outlets in the country. Regarding the current list, over 200 media outlets out of 600 are recognized, representing more than 60% quote. The Senegalese Ministry of Communication says this aims to bring order to the media sector. However, the list has been rejected by the CDEPs, the Organization of Press Executives. Abdullahi Hassan has more in this report.
In total, 258 media outlets are officially recognized and compliant with the Senegalese press code, according to the Minister of Communication. Among the recognized media, 26 television channels were selected, including Sen TV and 7 TV, which contested their non-recognition in the provisional list. 28 dailies were validated, including the journal Le Quotidien of Majambal Jane, which was absent from the initial list. Additionally, 30 radio stations, 48 online news sites, and 22 web TVs were validated. The ministry's clear objective is to sanitize the press sector. Hamidou Dia is the Director of Communication.
Our goal is to achieve a stable ecosystem with clearly identified actors. We envision professional journalists practicing their craft responsibly and reporters and technicians employed legally, enjoying employment contracts and corresponding social protections. Additionally, our short-term objective is to reach a point where the organization has sufficient tools to prevent any misinformation. Consolidated governance is crucial, enabling us to pool resources and achieve our goals.
A definitive list far from satisfying CDEPs, the Council of Broadcasting and Publishing Media of Senegal. Mamadou Ibra Khan is president of this organization, which represents the media owners of Senegal.
Ce qui fait tiquer simplement, c'est le fait qu'il y a certains médias qui n'ont pas été...
Some media outlets were not considered in the list published by the communication emissary. Regardless, the Press Employers Association had filed an appeal with the Supreme Court, and we await the outcome of this appeal. As a result, all lists claiming to recognize media entities in Senegal will be invalid. Consequently, we hope the ministry will finally comply with the law, which mandates that it should only register media outlets, not recognize or reject them.
Despite this stance from CDEPS, the Ministry of Communication does not intend to back down. Media outlets that are non-compliant with the press code and continue to operate are subject to sanctions.
Abdullahi Hassan with that report. In a related matter, Reporters Without Borders is taking action to locate Habib Moran Kamara, a Guinean investigative journalist who has been missing for 2 months now. Moran Kamara was reportedly adopted in early December while visiting a prominent figure. RSF once again denounced this situation and described the adoption of media professionals in Guinea as a threat to press freedom. Jean Lagarde is an advocacy officer at the Reporters Without Borders West and Central Africa Bureau in Dakar.
Ça vient porter un coup assez fatal à la liberté de la presse. Déjà que la liberté de la presse en Guinée.
The situation delivers a severe blow to press freedom in Guinea. Freedom of the press had already been under threat, with several media outlets banned in May last year. Some even blocked prior to that. Many journalists are now unemployed, while others fear criticizing the government due to threats, suspensions, and summons. This latest development only reinforces the fact that press freedom has been in jeopardy for the past year and a half, an alarming reality.
Consolider le fait que la liberté de la presse est vraiment mise à mal en Guinée depuis vraiment 1 an et demi, là c'est assez catastrophique.
Are you taking any action to restore it?
Alors oui, on a par exemple assez récemment saisi la rapporteure spéciale de la Commission africaine.
Yes, recently we alerted a special rapporteur of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights on freedom of expression and access to information. We are also engaging with authorities to address the situation. Additionally, other measures are being put in place, but for now, we prefer to keep it confidential.
Et puis à côté de ça, on a aussi d'autres choses qui sont mises en place actuellement pour le retrouver, mais on préfère pour le moment garder ça pour nous, quoi.
Jean Lagarde is an advocacy officer at the Reporters Without Borders office in Dakar. Elsewhere in the Sahel, a close associate of the Malian cleric Imam Mahmoud Dicko has been missing since Wednesday. Dauda Magasa was adopted by unidentified men. This disappearance occurs as the imminent return of Imam Mahmoud Dicko, a fierce critic of the junta, approaches. Here is Echiatisu with more.
It was around 7 p.m. on Wednesday when Dauda Magasa was abducted in Bamako. His kidnappers are yet to be identified. According to a statement from Imam Dicko's supporters, Magasa, a close associate of the Imam, had been receiving death threats and intimidations for several days, with daily surveillance of his home. His disappearance occurs while Imam Mahmoud Dicko is out of the country. To recall, Imam Dicko's CMAS, a fierce opponent of the military regime, was dissolved last March. In June, Yusuf Diawara, a member of the movement, was abducted by marksmen after participating in an opposition protest. He was eventually sentenced and then released. Last January, Amadou Unduga Maiga was also prevented from leaving Bamako for Nouakchott. Exiled in Algeria for over a year, Imam Mahmoud Dicko's return is expected on February 14th.
That was Aziz Adam Sulit's report, voiced by Eche Atisu.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Still in the Sahel, but this time in Niger, the decision by authorities to suspend the International Red Cross organization has received mixed reactions from civil society. Why some believe this decision is welcome, others foresee potential consequences. Our Niamey correspondent Mutala Zuberu has more in this report, voiced by Nadir Titi.
According to Abdurrahman Idi Hassan, this decision will significantly impact the Nigerian workers involved with the international community of the Red Cross ICRC and the populations in intervention zones. Hassan is a president of the Independent Movement for a New Niger in Justice and Equality.
These heads of families will find themselves unemployed. As you know, in Niger, these family heads are responsible for many family members, often providing for everyone with their modest incomes. This organization assists populations through various support programs, particularly those displaced by community conflicts, those suffering from severe food insecurity, and victims of war and conflict. These individuals will find themselves without sufficient resources because they are headed to areas where resources are scarce.
However, other civil society organizations support this decision, such as the Nigerian Movement for Reconciliation, led by Mika Adam Maiga.
It is beneficial for these populations because the parts of the NGOs operate in conflict zones where terrorists roam freely without concern. Additionally, we do not know if the authorities, at least before July 26, had any control or oversight over these trucks. Therefore, the authorities were unaware of what these trucks were transporting into these insecure areas. This makes me believe that they might be in collusion with the terrorists.
The International Red Cross has been active in Niger since 1990, conducting various humanitarian actions, including assisting displaced persons, providing potable water in conflict zones, and supporting vulnerable populations. So far, the authorities have not provided the reasons behind their decision to suspend the ICRC.
That was our Niamey correspondent Mutala Tsuberu's report, voiced by Nadir Titi. Nigeria's House of Representatives Committee on Constitution Review has proposed to creating 31 new states, which would increase the country's subnational governments to 67. Deputy Speaker Benjamin Kalu, who read the proposal during Thursday's plenary, said the new states are spread across all 6 geopolitical zones. The process requires legislative approval and a referendum. Among the proposed states are Okum, Confluence, Amana, Katagom, Savannah, New Kaduna, Lagun, and Ibadan. The proposal now awaits further legislative action. Senator Ajibola Basiru is a former spokesperson for the Nigerian Senate. He speaks on the process.
In relation to creation of the new states, Section 8 envisages 4 very important positions are to occur concurrently. For us to even be talking about a bill before the National Assembly being competent to be considered for state creation, and that was the essence of the clarification I had to make. First and foremost, the Senate is not making proposition for creation of any state, whether 1, whether 2, whether 20, or whether any number. What has happened was that there were requests for creation of states, and the Senate is not in a position to even make that proposition until requisite provisions of Section 8 are complied. And what are these provisions? 1, the request for creation of state must be supported by 2/3 of elected representatives in the 2 chambers of the National Assembly and the House of Assembly from the areas from which the state is to be created. Secondly, the request must be supported by 2/3 referendum of people in the area from which the state is to be carved out. At the same time, even after the referendum, the people in that area must also agree. Then you are also talking of 2/3 resolution of the 2 chambers of the National Assembly.
Senator Ajibola Basiru is a former spokesperson for the Nigerian Senate. You are listening to Newslink here on West Africa, Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. The state of Senegal, in a revised media listing, recognizes 200 outfits, representing a drop from the previous list of 600 organizations. Civil society organizations in Nigeria react to the expulsion of the International Red Cross by the authorities. Nigeria is considering increasing the number of states from the current 36 to 67. Still ahead in the news, Liberian government pushes for a permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council. We also have the guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Madam, thanks for sticking with us. As a reminder, we're streaming live on YouTube at WADR News and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Liberia's campaign for a seat on the United Nations Security Council is said to be on an irreversible path. That's according to the country's permanent representative at the United Nations, Louis Brown. He spoke Thursday at the Ministry of Information regular press briefing in Monrovia.
Liberia acted as a mediator in various international cases, leveraging its unique position as a symbol of black sovereignty and independence. When Liberia succeeds in the June elections, it will be 65 years since Liberia had the opportunity to sit on the highest platform of the world responsible for maintaining international peace and security. 65 years. This bid is about us, each Liberian, and all. This bid is about all that we have suffered together and continue to strive to overcome the pains and scars of war and the resilience and determination to survive. It is about the hardships we face and our shared will and determination to become better. We know that each county in our country has a flag. We know that each political party has a flag. Fellow Liberians at home and abroad, the flag we are talking about, the flag that will fly atop the United Nations headquarters in all of its glory, the flag that will adorn the halls of the Security Council of the United Nations will not be a country. It will not be a tribal mask. It will not be a party flag. It will be and must be and continue to be the flag of the Republic of Liberia.
You heard the voice of Louis Brown, Liberia's permanent representative to United Nations. A global summit on the formalization of the economy in the employment sector being held in Cote d'Ivoire came to a close on Thursday. The summit, themed Innovative Strategies for Inclusive Prosperity, was organized by the International Organization of Employers in collaboration with the General Confederation of Enterprises of Cote d'Ivoire and co-funded by the European Union. Participants included private sector actors, representatives of international organizations, and Ivorian ministers.
Politics, analyses on major news, social matters, and all. This is a guest.
Our guest this afternoon is Mamadou Chor, chairperson of COREP, the Council for Compliance with Rules of Ethics and Professional Conduct of Media in Senegal. Chor speaks about Thursday's published revised list of recognized media outlets in the country, which the government says aims to sanitize the sector. COREP's chairperson explains in detail the criteria for review of the provisional list first announced last December.
I mean, the criteria are all in the law governing the press, what we call the Code de la Presse in Senegal. It has been adopted by the National Assembly in 2017, which mean for the television, when you want to operate it, what are the criteria for a registration, for a website, and for a written press, dailies or weeklies or things like those. Or for all of these, when you go to this law, it's specified according to the journalistic criteria. Today, to lead a website, you should be graduated from journalism school and at least have a 10-year experience. So they applied that criteria. That's why you see that many websites have been set aside because there were over 200 and something like that. But at the end of the day, more than half cannot meet that criteria. And it's the same with the dailies and things like that. What we call person who is at the top of the newsroom should have the same criteria, meaning graduating from journalism school and experiencing 10 years in the job. And for television and for radio, you have to be authorized by what we call the Seconde here in Senegal, which is the regulatory board of the media set up by the government.
There have been reactions, especially from SEDEPS, one of the professional bodies or executives of the broadcast media in Senegal, rejecting this announced or revised list of media stations. One of the arguments there is that this is a deliberate attempt by the state to clamp down on media operators or media owners.
No, in fact, this is not a new thing done by government, because with the former regime of President Macky Sall, they were doing it, but maybe it had not been done in the same way. Because when you compare to the first list published at the end of November, early December, yeah, the reaction was harsh because it was a list of only 112 media recognized, and for the new list, we go up to 258, which means it's double, more than double. And all those who were reacting, negatively in the first list, in the new list, because they cannot at a time meet the criteria, and they done what had been required, and they are now in the new list, and something people were asking for, because when you look at the media landscape, at the time, there's a freedom of entrepreneurship, but some people were using it for very, very bad reasons. That's why we say that it's very good now to get a list and know who are the media adjusting to the law of the press.
So for clarity's sake, Mamadou Cho, this is not permanent. Any of the media stations that is right now not among the officially recognized media outlets by the state can revisit the set criteria. Once they regularize the requirements, they can or will be re-enlisted.
That's it. It's permanent. It's like the press card. It never stops. As soon as all these media can try to meet the criteria, they can come back to the platform, because it's a platform online. We show that, they are doing it and in a very transparent way. So there is nothing to worry about. All these media can try to see what has gone wrong and try to correct. And then if they correct, they can put in the list, and the list can be updated. There is nothing to worry about that.
Is your organization, in collaboration of stakeholders in the media industry, doing all they can to make sure that press freedom and, of course, the right to access to information in Senegal is not threatened or under attack?
Yeah, I think we can be confident about the reform which has been undertaken with the new regime, because at the time we are talking, they are working on a new law regarding advertisement. And for the private press, advertisement is very key, because they can get more means from advertisement to make ends meet, because that's not the case right now. The last law governing advertisement is from the early 1980s and is not up to the date. So there is a new regulatory body which will be replacing what we call the Seconde now. It's only governing the television and the radio, and set aside have no competence on the what we call the online press and the written press. And the new main body we are working on, and which will be created maybe March or something like April, will be new things which come and try to govern all the media landscape and try to regulate them. Even what we call the social media will be part of this new body. So they are trying to implement reform which are going in the right way.
Mamadou Cho is the chairperson of the Council for Compliance with Rules of Ethics and Professional Conduct of Media in Senegal. Up next is Sankle Janko with sports.
Hello there, warm welcome and thank you for joining us. The 18 Ghana Premier League clubs have condemned in the strongest term all acts of hooliganism and violence that have marred the beautiful game in recent games, according to a press statement. The tragic incident that occurred at the Swaman FC vs Asante Kotoko SC match, resulting in the loss of life of a loyal Kotoko fan, Francis Nana Frimpong, is particularly disturbing and unacceptable. The 18 clubs say they stand in solidarity with the family of the deceased and extended their deepest condolences to them as well as to the entire Asante Kotoko SC fraternity. The clubs have also committed to promoting fair play, sportsmanship and respect for the game, its officials and spectators. They further went on to say they will not tolerate any form of hooliganism, violence or intimidation at match centres. In a meeting held on Thursday, February 6, 2025, the GFA Secretariat, all Premier League clubs have agreed to enhance match-day security protocols. These enhanced protocols will form basis of an Executive Council meeting of the GFA on Friday, 7 February 2025, after which the comprehensive guidelines will be published ahead of the resumption of the Premier League season, according to media reports. The clubs also pledged to work hand in hand with the Ghana Football Association, the security agencies and other stakeholders to ensure that those responsible for the criminal acts are apprehended and brought to justice. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
We've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Umu Danyogo for the technical support. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Do stay tuned for the second edition of the News in French, which is Info chez vous at 1 p.m. with Demba Ama Anne. I am Augustine Cully. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New FM.